Everybody, and welcome into the 36th edition of Texas Longhorns Live. I am here with my co-host Gerald. I am your host Matthew Miller. Can you please give me a follow there on Twitter or X? And you can also give Gerald a follow on Twitter or X right there along with his podcast that he does. So please check out both of those. It really helps out what we're trying to build on both networks. Join us every Monday again, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're here in the offseason. The offseason has officially started for us Texas Longhorns. Hurts to say that, but it is the truth. Also, can you please like and subscribe? It really helps out what we're trying to build. And then also check out Mark's call-in show every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I believe he's doing this in the offseason as well. And there's a bunch of other content that you can couch out on this channel. And check out the Amazon link in the description. Does not change the buying experience or process. Just puts a little bit of change into Mark's pocket. Now, let's jump into this. Postmortem. We'll jump into it. We'll dive into the good, the bad, the ugly, what we thought of this season in general, what went wrong. Gerald, I'll let you start on this. Whatever way you want to take it, you have the floor.
You know, we talk about it a lot on this channel. Like, you have to be able to hold multiple thoughts in your head at once, right? Like, we have to be able to understand the nuance of where we're at. Because let's be honest, like, Texas won 13 games this year. 13-3 is a really successful season, right? Texas competed for the SEC championship, right? They were in the SEC championship game. They beat OU. They beat A&M. Like, going into the season, I had it as a 10-2 or 11-1 regular season, and they hit that mark, and they've exceeded it. They made it to the semifinals for the second time, right? They're in the Final Four for the second consecutive year. They actually won some playoff games this year. But with that being said, it's hard to also not see the opportunities that were left on the field, right? Texas had a chance to tie the game late in the CFP and the college football playoff against Ohio State and potentially continue to be playing football, right? We'd be having a very different conversation if Texas was able to punch it in from the 1 yard line, right? We might be having a different conversation if Texas was able to play better against Georgia in a couple of spots, right? Like, those are things that we have to reconcile with. Was this a successful season? Absolutely, right? When we talk about is Texas back, like, what does it mean for Texas to be back, right? But using the meme, Texas being nationally relevant later than all of its peer competitors is Texas being back, right? Texas has now been in the college football playoff twice, right? They have more playoff wins than Oklahoma. They have more playoff appearances than A&M. They have more SEC championship appearances than A&M in one season, right? Texas is in the right spot. That being said, right, we can also say that we left meat on the bone.
Yeah, 100%. I'm the same way. I think you know what the issue is because the season has ended the exact same way back-to-back years. You have lost in the red zone on 4 straight plays, both times. It's that simple. To me, this team, if they get their red zone issues solved, and I don't mean being ranked in the top 10. I don't even mean being ranked in the top 25. Can you be the 50th best red zone offense? If this team... Yeah, if this team this year was the 50th best red zone offense, we're talking about being in the national championship right now. I really believe that. But it's something that's reared its ugly head many times, and it's something I got heat on for the channel for speaking. Texas fans jumped all over me because after the Mississippi State games, a lot of this stuff came out because that was like the first real test other than Michigan, but SEC competition that we faced, and I saw these things pop up, and I'm like, okay, these cannot be popping up here because if they pop up versus good competition, good SEC competition, we're going to lose football games. And I said if we play Ohio State, Georgia, those teams, we'll lose. What do you know? We played Ohio State and Georgia. We lost to both of them. And that's the reason. Like, when you see a red flag, you cannot ignore it, guys. I don't care who it's against. If you're playing, like, let's say, Southern Miss next year, I don't know if they're not even on the schedule, but just an example. And you get stuffed in the red. Yeah. You get stuffed in the red zone, that should be a red bell or an alarm bell going off in your head of, oh, this might be an issue versus better competition, because it shouldn't be an issue versus lesser teams. It shouldn't. Now, there's some other things that this team can do better, obviously procedural penalties and stuff of that nature. But even if they were just like the 50th best red zone offense, I think they're so talented, they're able to get away with those things. I really believe that. I mean, for God's sakes, we were in a 1-score game with the best team in college football at the 1 yard line, about to force overtime last year versus Washington. Again, we did not play a good football game, and somehow that game was close enough, and we're getting 4 plays from like the 12-yard line. So that's what I'm saying. That needs to be the number one thing cleaned up on this staff is red zone. I don't care about anything else. I really don't. If the false starts stay the same, but we get better in red zone, we'll win more football games. If you're going to continually be this bad in the red zone, then you literally have to be perfect everywhere else. You cannot have you have no margin of error anywhere else on this football team. But the easiest thing is just solve the red zone. Now, again, that's going to be harder said than done. I think there's definitely some things that can help this team. Something watching the NFL. I'm a Broncos fan. Unfortunately, they got their doors blown off by the Bills. I was kind of expecting that Bills were a much better football team, but I watched Josh Allen 1 yard to go situations, automatic, push him every time, pushed him. Guess what, guys? Arch Manning, like size-wise, him and Josh Allen are about the same. If that is not in the playbook next year, where he literally just lines up and we push him over the line, we have failed. That should be literally, if it's 1 yard to go, that should be the play every time. And I understand why it wasn't in this game, because again, he fumbled in that Clemson game and he probably doesn't take many reps under center. But I saw you want to jump in there, Gerald. I'll let you hit on that too.
No, I'm just gonna agree with you, and I want to bring up some stats. If you look at the red zone performance year to year to year to year, technically Texas' worst year to Steve Sarkisian was actually their best year, and it's declined every year. And the thing that kind of shocked me when I looked at the stats, between last season and the season before, so like the year that Texas lost Bijan Robinson and Roshan Johnson, almost a 10% drop off in red zone percentage. Those dudes were carrying this team across the red zone. That Roshan Johnson red zone, that Wildcat package, Bijan just being Bijan, right? Like that has something that's got to change. And I don't know if I think there are two separate problems. Like one, I think there's the play calling problem with Sark, and we'll talk about that, right? Like if you're going to bring in the heavy package for 1 down, just spam it and go all 4 downs and just do it, right? Just do it. It is what it is, right? You knew that it was an option, do it, right? But the other thing is like, there's almost like a mentality thing, I think, with the team, and I don't know what it is, because like really when there's 1 yard left to go, that is a mental thing. That is a between the ears. That is a who wants it more. Low man wins. I'm going to move you off the ball before you can move me off the ball. And they're those two things, and I don't know how you solve either of them, right? Because Texas is not as mentally soft as it has been in the past, right? Again, they were able to answer 2 weeks ago against Arizona State. They almost answered again against Ohio State this week. So like that's not the same mental fragility that we've seen in the past from Texas teams, but there's still something there when you have 1 yard to go and you're going to let a safety get lower than you, offensive lineman. You're going to let a safety blow you up in the hole. Like that cannot happen. And as much as coaching can solve it, that's also something that players have to get between the ears.
Yeah, and I think it is definitely a mentality thing when it comes to, if you look at our offensive linemen, we really only have one guy that's an asshole, honestly, and it was DJ Campbell. No offense, he's our worst offensive lineman. So you can't have your worst guy being your asshole, especially when, let's be honest, he got subbed out a lot of games because he wasn't playing that well. In this game, he got subbed out versus Ohio State. Cole Hudson, I think, took about the majority of the snaps, or at least equal. So it really helps when your best offensive lineman is an asshole, which Kelvin Banks is just honestly just too nice of a person. If you listen to him talk, he's not that dude. So, and I'm not going to hate on him because he's probably the best or second best offensive lineman to ever play at Texas. So definitely not going to have anything bad to say about him, but definitely mentality, I think, is one of the things. I think play calling is part of it. And I do think Quinn Ewers has some blame there because his arm strength just isn't what it was at the beginning of his career. And I don't know if it ever will be. That's going to be interesting when he does go to the NFL, how that holds up. But I think those are the three main things. And it's the biggest thing holding this team back. Because again, to me, guys, I tweeted this out. If they figure that out, they are going to start destroying teams. We're talking 2020 Alabama type stuff, because in between the 20s, easy work. We move the ball versus everyone in between the 20s. It's literally in the red zone. That is the only thing holding this team back, in my opinion, from taking that next step and winning a national championship and at least getting there. And that's the thing too. I saw a video today, not going to shout out the podcast. I watch it sometimes. The guys frustrate me, to say the least. They're a national podcast. And a question was brought up whether this can be continued at Texas, or is this just like a fad type thing, I guess. And I was like, Steve Sarkisian, as long as he's here with the recruiting class he brings in, transport, we will be fine. We will be here. This is, to me, this is Michigan before a national championship. This is Ohio State on their path to a national championship. This is Georgia before they won a national championship. This is Clemson before they won a national championship. Other than Nick Saban and Alabama, it was I believe the average was like year 6 or 7 for those teams to win a national championship with that head coach. We're in year 4, so we're fine. If we get to like year 8 or 9, fine. You want to draw some concern from that? Fine. But we still have like 3 to 4 more years before I'm even getting close to getting concerned here. It will happen. You just got to be patient.
And Nick Saban has like broken the barometer on what we consider a successful program, right? Nick Saban is one of one. Like the best coach after Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, had a fall off after a couple of years, right? They won a couple. They haven't won one in 2 years, right? So like we have to recalibrate our brain that like that run of Alabama is probably never going to be repeated in college football. It's just not. It's not how it normally works. Nick Saban is a one of one. The way that he has built that program and the way that he ran that program is not going to happen anymore because of NIL, because of the way the transfer portal works, right? It's just not going to work. So like I feel like we need to like unplug the college football router and plug it back in and like reset it from the Nick Saban era, because like the way that we define success in college football is so weird. And again, part of it is we have more games, we have more stakes, the players are being compensated, right? But like we have to understand like the best programs historically have been really good like 2 of every 4 years, right? That's just how cycles work. It's how development works. It's how those things work. And Texas isn't having the mass exodus that a lot of top programs are having, right? You're seeing players leaving Georgia and Alabama and all of these other schools, right? Texas isn't having that. So, and there probably will be a bigger bump post spring, just because they're effectively still on like playing football when classes started. So like they're going to have probably a bigger number in the spring window, but you're not seeing a big mass exodus. So like the way Sark is building this program, there's a lot of continuity, and continuity in any sport is the way to win.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of I think Sadir Mitchell legitimately might be like the biggest guy that factored in that's transferred out from Texas in Sark's tenure here. Like, I don't remember a guy transferring out like, man, that guy was going to be a starter even in the 2 deep rotation. There really aren't those guys.
Savion Red might be a guy who would have gotten some run this year, but that's situational.
Honestly, he would have helped. He would have helped.
I would have loved to see. I'd have loved to see some Savion Red Cat this year. I'd have loved to see some of that for sure.
Yeah. So now, yeah, that one hurts. I totally forgot about that. But yeah, it's weird. He probably would have only played like maybe a play or 2 a game, but he could have been really useful for this team, honestly. But it is what it is. Like I agree with you, Sark, that we haven't been doing that here. Darrell says we saw the best and worst play calling from Sark in this game. The 4th and 1 play call is incredible. Meanwhile, the second goal was horrific. I don't think it was as bad as everyone's saying it is, but it was not a good call. I agree. And the problem I have with it is, you know what the strength of Ohio State is. And here, Gerald, I'll just ask you this question. You don't know what the right answer is, but I guarantee you give it to me. What were Ohio State linebackers and safeties doing all night long?
I mean, they're playing sideline to sideline. They're crashing. They're anticipating the run. Like, they're just so darn fast. Like, there's no 2 ways around it. And Caleb Downs read that play from, I don't know how, but like it was like a freaking rocket ship, a torpedo. Like, he just crashed the run. He got there damn near when the ball got snapped. Like, it was ridiculous.
No, and that's what I'm saying. They were so aggressive that, to me as a play caller, if someone's going to be that aggressive, you know what will work there? A fake toss. If he fakes that toss and curls out to the right and has someone running that way, I think it's a touchdown, because they're so damn aggressive on defense. They come downhill. And when you, as a play caller, you should realize, oh, they're so aggressive. Let's use that aggressiveness as our advantage, not their advantage. And he did that in some instances, but that instance to me didn't make any sense because, like you said, they're crashing downhill all night long.
I think it's that second and goal was, I think, more egregious because they had just brought the heavy package in. And like, I know you got stonewalled, but like it's a simple math thing for me, right? You have 1 yard to go forward. If you go sideways, you got 5 or 10 yards to go, right? It's just like 1 yard is shorter than 15. The shortest path between 2 points is a straight line. It's like, I never understand going sideline to sideline on the goal line. Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, I think honestly there were only, like, looking back on it, I did not think this at the time, but looking back on it, I think there were 2 play calls that would have scored. I think if you ran like some fake play off a run and threw it, I think you might have scored off a bootleg type thing. And then honestly, a pop pass from Arch, I think that 100% would have scored. Him faking to run it and just little Tebow thing, that would have scored. They're so aggressive. They would have come downhill on that and we would have scored up. But that's 50-50. But I do expect they better have some plays like that with Arch Manning. You have a whole offseason to work on it. You better be running. the Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen package in the NFL with Arch. He has that type of body. He's not going to get hurt. I mean, my God, Lathan Ransom destroyed that man, and he got up. He seemed fine. Maybe he was in concussion protocol. I know there was that, but overall, like, he got up right away. He's
I think we're having some connection issues.
Oh, so,
Matthew, you back with us?
I think
we're having some connection issues with Matthew, or maybe it's me. One of us is scrambling right now. So, yeah, we just lost Matthew for just a minute, but he'll be back. But I agree with what he was saying. I've been calling for an Arch Manning pop pass for the entirety of the season, right? I would love to see that rolled into the season. And again, it's going to be a completely different view next year because, well, he's not going to be the backup. He's not going to be the situational quarterback. He's going to be the starter. But Sark, the two ways that cuts in my mind, though, because Sark doesn't love to run a quarterback run. Like now, if a quarterback scrambles or if it's an RPO situation or a zone read situation, but like he's not a QB run kind of quarterback because it's an easy way to get your quarterback hurt, right? So there's ways, there's something that we have to have in our mind, we have to remember that, like, yes, Arch is more mobile, but I don't imagine Sark just philosophically changing that about how he runs a football team and how he runs an offense. So to me, like, we have to take that with a grain of salt. And now somebody could be watching this 6 months from now and comment like, hey, Sark has completely changed the offensive philosophy and is running a lot more zone read and Arch is running the ball more. I don't anticipate that happening, but we have to just like temper our expectations with that. Well, I wait for Matthew. I'm gonna die on a hill for a second.
Yeah,
Matthew, you back with us?
I think I am. We'll see. My Wi-Fi was acting up there for a second, but yeah, I agree. We just have to figure out something with the Arch Manning thing. Obviously, you have a whole offseason to work on it now, so I think we'll be fine with whatever package we decide to roll out. I wasn't a fan of what we did with it for the most part this year. It caught A&M off guard clearly in that game, but after that, I just wasn't a fan of it. But overall, let's jump up some positive things. So the pass defense from last year to this year was like in the yards per pass. I believe we were somewhere in between the 90 to 110 range. We jumped up to top 5 in the country in that. We were phenomenal. Now, was the competition great? No, but even when we started to play better competition, yards per pass was still pretty damn good. I mean, Sam Levitt, I think, was like 4.6. Cade Klubnik and Will Howard were like 7.8, but again, they have good weapons and they're good players. So you don't expect to hold those guys like 4.5 yards per pass or anything like that. But overall, I think we've held, or definitely Will Howard, to his worst performance that he's had at Ohio State recently.
Yeah, and if you had told me going into the game, like Jeremiah Smith has 3 yards, I think Texas wins by 1 billion points, right? Like they execute outside of like one play, they executed the defensive game plan they needed to win. They put together, like, in any modern football situation, holding a team with that type of offense to 21 points should be a win, right? That should be a win for any offense. And like, I'm already like, even like, I'm looking back at both this year and last year's team to a lesser extent, but still, like, it's going to be wild to look at the number of players on either of these teams that have long, productive, high-value NFL careers. And, like, how did Texas not win a national championship with these defenders, right? It's just absolutely insane. I want to pull up the numbers. It's, the numbers aren't finalized because there's still another game, but, like, 15.3 points per game they averaged. They were number 3 in opponent-adjusted defensive efficiency this year. Number 3. They were number 1 in points per drive, number 2 in yards per play. This was an elite championship level defense, right? And we have, like, Pete Kwiatkowski continues to prove that, like, he is, if not the one of the, like, he's top 3 and probably not 2 or 3 defensive coordinators in the country, right? Like, guy is absolutely killing the game. He's got a ton of talent. They're going to lose some talent this year. Obviously, Makuba's gone, Barron's gone, Benda's gone. Gilbo is probably still evaluating his options. But you're going to get Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons back, Michael Taft back. Probably he's a guy who could go, but I think he probably comes back. But like the defense continues to be elite. Like, and they somehow they continue to get better. And I'm a person that got to like be on campus for like the 2004, 2005 defenses that had that level of like 5 or 6 or 7 NFL guys. I got to see the 2008 defense that had like 5 or 6 or 7 NFL guys. And like, I would put several of the dudes on this defense over players that I saw on that squad, especially at the linebacker spot. Both of those groups could use some help like it, but Anthony Hill against anybody is probably an unfair proposition. But like, this defense was elite in an all-time unit, and it sucks that they were one game shy of playing for a national championship.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think they're going to be really good next year. I really think at this point, I think Trey Moore, and we'll get into that later, but I think Trey Moore is probably, at what I've heard, probably going to come back. I think Gilbo will come back. Taff is leaning to coming back. And so you're really only having to replace Jahdae Barron and the 2 guys up the middle. I'm more worried about the 2 guys up the middle, honestly. I will say Manny Muhammad played really well in this Ohio State game. Like, this was definitely a bounce back game for him. So maybe it's more of a concentration thing for him, and is just like he doesn't feel up to it some days. Other days he does, which is an issue. You definitely got to get that solved. But this team has a lot of talent. I'm excited. You got Kobe Black, who I think has a lot of upside, who probably slides in there as your second cornerback. And I think the continuity on defense will be a big thing too. You have a lot of guys coming back, and I think just based off that, you'll be in the same realm. And it's weird. I think overall next year's team is probably a little bit more talented, but there's a lot less starts just on both sides of the ball. There, especially on offense. So that's gonna be interesting.
It is going to be a very, I think, inexperienced. They may not be young because you've got some guys that will be like second and third year guys, but haven't had a ton of starting experience stepping in. Derek Williams is another guy who's going to come in and probably sub in for Makuba as he cycles out. So there's a lot, like you said, a lot of talent. It's going to be a very unproven team. I do think next year may be more offense heavy than this year's team was, but again, that's not a far leap to ask from them. And I take that shot, but like, they were a top 15, top 20 offense. It's just in the critical spots, in the red zone, in the moments that really mattered. It just felt like they shriveled up and turtled up. So I'm curious to see what it looks like with Arch back there and with CJ Baxter back, with those guys healthy. Like, that's something that really we have to keep an eye on. And another one, again, Isaiah Bond, haven't gotten a decision from him yet. Likely probably going, but Matthew Golden said he was going first, so maybe that has an impact on it. Matthew, you back with us?
Hopefully you can hear me. If I'm having issues still, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. Yeah, I know my Wi-Fi keeps going in and out, but yeah, interesting about the Bond thing, because there's the report that there were like 3 or 4, I guess, guys on the team that weren't gelling with the whole team like we thought they would. Johnson Cook being one, we saw he's gone. Isaiah Bond being the other, and then there was another guy that I never got the name of, but it's going to be interesting. I don't know if Isaiah Bond, honestly, is even welcome back at this point from everything that I've seen and heard. So we'll see. I think there's if I'm having to rank what happens to him, I'm thinking NFL, transfer portal, and then Texas.
Tough to see.
Yeah. I would have loved for Matthew Golden to come back, but at this point, he's ranked as the 8th best wide receiver in this draft. You got to go. That you're going in the second round at that point, and I don't think – with the talent we have in that room, I really don't think he gets elevated that much more. I would have loved to have him, but I can't say enough good things about him.
And there's not much he can do to improve his stock at this point, right? The last 3 games have done so much for him. There's nothing he can do to improve.
No, and if he doesn't get hurt in that Ohio State game, we're probably talking about a guy that had, 3 out of the last 4 games over 100 yards receiving. So
if he doesn't get hurt, he's the first player since Jordan Shipley to have 1,000 receiving and 10 touchdowns. That's what it is.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I know Xavier Worthy, I think he had 1,000 yards receiving one year, but he never had the 10 touchdowns, did he?
Texas had 1,000-yard receivers. They've had 10 touchdowns, but nobody's done both since Shipley.
That's really impressive for him. Yeah, he's awesome. It's going to be interesting where he goes. I think he's going to have a long career wherever he goes. I don't think he's ever going to be like a 1,200-yard receiver in the NFL or anything like that, but I could see 600 yards a year, 5-6 touchdowns in a decade-long career.
He'll stay around for sure. He can use some improvement blocking, but he's not a terrible blocker. Good pass runner, good route runner. He's got enough speed. He likes to attack the ball. He's got what NFL teams want.
And then also, I want to shout out this guy, David Benda. Came back. He could have gone to the NFL last year as probably a 5th or 6th round pick. Decided to come back. Didn't know if he was going to started for some of the year, and then got replaced by Leona Lafau. And Never heard anything about him. He's always been positive, always goes out to the media, has a really good game versus Ohio State, has the interception, has that big play on 4th down for the stop or 3rd down. And he's just been a great teammate, a great ambassador for the University of Texas, and a good football player as well. So nothing but luck to him.
Yeah, I mean, 60 tackles on the year, I think. Dude, like, he came out, he did what he was supposed to do, did what he asked to do. And I think he's a guy who improved his stock. He's not going to be a first-round linebacker, but I think he's gone from, like, a 5th, 6th-round guy to, like, a 4th-round, 5th-round, like, early 5th-round guy, which is money in your pocket.
Yeah, I think he can hang around special teams. We see that all the time. He's a very good special teams player, and a guy like that, he's going to be a good locker room guy. Yep. You can make a lot of money doing that in the NFL. Yep. So props to him. It'll be interesting. But those are the guys. Some of the guys that have left. I think we've let's see.
We haven't talked about Quinn Ewers. We have to talk Quinn.
I'll let you start on that.
Because I mean, they're like, we've said it already on the channel multiple times, but like, I hate how people are talking about Quinn Ewers at this point, and it's frustrating. Like, they're talking about him like he had the game that Drew Aller had the night before, and that's not like. We have to like get over this like weird Quinn Ewers brain rot that we all have. I don't get it. Like, the guy played outside of one play. I'm not even going to put the interception on him because Texas was in desperation mode and Ohio State was playing prevent defense. Right? He threw up a prayer and he had to. Like, outside of the fumble, really, which isn't even 100% on him. He was trying to make a play. It was 4th down in season at that point. He was in a bad spot. So, like, he played well enough to play. He operated the offense really well in a lot of spots. The lack of running game cost him. But, like, we are going to look back, and I hope people are going to feel bad about how they've treated Quinn Ewers over the last couple of years, especially with Arch Manning back there. If the guy's name is Arch Smith, I feel like we have this weird we have a different mindset about it. But, like, Quinn Ewers is among the elites in Texas history in most statistical categories: completions, total yardage, touchdowns, 300-yard games. One of only 5 players to have multiple 300-yard games in his career. One of like 6 people to have a 400-yard game. Like, dude has been one of the best quarterbacks in Texas history, and the best quarterback, in my opinion, since probably Colt McCoy was on campus. I'll give somebody, if they want to argue Ellinger from a production standpoint, but like, Quinn Ewers has done things for Texas football that we needed. And I don't think Texas football is where it is with a different quarterback. If Quinn Ewers decides to stay in Ohio, or if he decides to go to Texas Tech instead of Texas, like was rumored when he came down after he decided to transfer, like, I don't think Texas is where they are right now. I think a lot of it hinges on what Quinn Ewers is able to do and the continuity he provided for 3 years to allow Sark to build that quarterback room, right? To build that room up to where it needs to be, to where he wants it to be, to have 2 years of Arch, and then 2 years of KJ Lacey, and then 2 years of Dia Bell, right? Texas is going to be able to have a factory of guys, and that rests on Quinn Ewers' ability to be a tough son of a gun. Like, that dude played hurt all 3 years. He's played through injury. He's come out there. He's given it his everything. And, like, I just wish people would get over the fact that Arch Manning is behind him for a second and take Quinn Ewers for Quinn Ewers, right? Like, the guy has had one of the most productive careers, and this is going to make people mad. Same number of championships as Colt McCoy, right? Same number of conference championships as Vince Young, right? Vince Young, 1 conference championship and a national championship. Colt McCoy, 1 conference championship, no national championships. I'm just saying, like, and I'm not saying he's as good as Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy, legendary status. There's only 2 quarterbacks that go by one name, like VY and Colt. But the way Quinn Ewers is treated is frustrating for me.
No, I completely agree with everything you said. And in that game, particularly versus Ohio State, like, other than the first half where he walked in my opinion, 2 sacks.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. That's the only blemish I see. The fumble's not his fault. Cam Williams got destroyed on that play. Yeah, terrible. The interception at the end was not his fault. He has to do it. And then the fumble also, Cam Williams got destroyed. Cam Williams played a terrible game versus Ohio State. We didn't say that, but he did. But overall, yeah, he should be loved at the University of Texas. At worst, he's the 4th best quarterback at the University of Texas. People can say what they want. Do I think Arch Manning is more talented? Yes. But do I think he was ready to play? No. And that's the thing too. There's already going to be people I know. Arch Manning's probably going to have a really good year next year, and I'm hoping he does. They'll be like, well, so you should have played last year. No, he's not the same player. No. So yeah, Quinn deserves all the love, all the credit. He's done a really good job here, as well as just this class in general that's going on in the NFL, whether they're seniors, juniors, or whatever they are, redshirt sophomores. They did a really good job at Texas. You know, they're the first class to bring them back to relevancy. This next couple classes, it's going to be those classes will be remembered if they push them them over that mark and start winning championships.
Yeah, I mean, this group has left the place better than they found it, and there's no two ways around it.
100%. So that's the post-mortem on the 2024 Longhorns. Next week, we can talk about the 2025, but let's jump into this. Who stays and who goes for Texas? A lot of guys have already gone, but of the ones remaining, Cam Williams, Michael Taft, Trey Moore, are there any that you think, like, let's break it up into this. There are guys that probably should go, but you want them to stay, and then guys that should stay, but they're thinking about going. I guess give me your whole breakdown of that.
Yeah, I think most of the guys that I would want to stay that have already declared and that would like Kelvin makes. I'd love for him to stay, but like it makes sense for him to go to the NFL, right? Like I of the guys that are remaining that haven't declared, I think Cam Williams probably needs to stay, right? I think he's a guy who could use another year of polish. It's all between the ears for him. I think I would love like I've already said, I think Isaiah Bond needs another year. He needs to show folks that he can be healthy and be productive. And he seems to have a better relationship with Arch Manning than Quinn Ewers anyways, based upon like production in the games on who started. So like that might be a better situation for him. Michael Taft, I think I want him to stay. I think he probably could improve his draft stock with another year like he had this year. He's probably going to be a later round guy. I don't know how well he would test. He's not really your an explosive athlete. He's like a football dude. I think he's probably like a better Brendan Schooler is like a way that I can think about him, right? He's just a football dude. I think he'll probably stick on special teams like Schooler has. But like, I think he's a guy who probably could, and I'd love to see him stay. I think Trey Moore's another guy who I think he started to come on, and I think is another guy that would benefit from Texas's rotational approach at defensive end and at edge, because a fresh body in the fourth quarter is going to put up a sack, right? Like that is what it is, right? You're going to put up more numbers because you don't have to play 70 plays a game. You're playing 35 plays a game, and you're rotating, and you've got multiple bodies in there. So I think he's another guy that I'd love to see come back. And I think Texas could probably, a guy like him could probably put together a competitive NIL package for another year to get him back. Cam Williams is getting some first round love, so I don't think there is like, he's got the physical stuff, but again, it's all mental for me with Cam. But those are the guys that really jump off the page to me. Is like, I want them to stay around.
No, 100%. For Cam Williams, I think it's this simple. Is this going to be a short-term or long-term decision? Because I think short-term, you'll make more money, obviously, going to the NFL right away than staying at Texas. Yep. But do I think you're ready just based off watching you? No. They're drafting you based off of your frame, your footwork, and all that stuff. He still has some stuff with his hands. He like tries to poke at people too often. He kind of guesses, in my opinion. I think that's what you saw with the Jack Sawyer play. Yeah. Guessed, and he got destroyed. He was touching his toes. It did not look good. And I think he could use another year, and I think that would help him long term. And guess what? You make more money on your second NFL contract. So why not come back to Texas? You'll get paid probably $2 million, honestly, to be our right tackle for next year. And then help out, develop the other guys, show that you're a good teammate as well. Get developed a little bit more. Go off to the NFL. You'll still probably be a top 40 pick. Even if you get hurt, you're going to be a second-round pick, in my opinion. Like if he blew his ACL out next year but put on some tape, you're still probably being a second-round pick. It's more about the development for me and long-term, in my opinion, with him. I think Michael Taft, honestly, if he was bigger, would go to the NFL. He just doesn't have the body type of the safety the NFL wants right now. He's going to, in my opinion, I'm telling that guy, eat whatever you want and lift as heavy as you can in this offseason, gain 15 pounds, and you'll be fine because the mental stuff's already there for him. He knows what he's doing in the back end. He's really good with that stuff. Yeah. And then Isaiah Bond, I would love, like talent-wise, I'd love to have him back, but I mean, I could see where if he's not getting the reps or playing time he deserves next year, like a complete meltdown, kind of like Jonte Cook had. And I really don't want to deal with that. And I don't think the Texas fans or Texas coaches want to deal with that either. So if that's the way it's going to be, I don't really want him back. If it's not going to be like that, then I'll love to have him back because, I mean, think about it. You'd have Ryan Wingo, Isaiah Bond, and then probably DeAndre Moore as your three starters, and then Lockett, French, Dalen McCutcheon, Parker Livingston, Aaron Butler. I mean, there's so many other backup guys. You'd have a rotation of really good wide receivers. So
Yeah.
I'd like to have him back talent-wise and also just get some veteran presence in that locker room because at this point, right now, it's DeAndre Moore and Ryan Wingo are your two veteran wide receivers. So
Yeah.
they're talented, but there's no veteran presence there, and I'd like to have that.
Yeah.
And then I don't think Gilbo's going anywhere. I don't think he has a high enough grade yet. You saw some breakdowns from him. I think he comes up a little bit too aggressively in run support sometimes and gets out of place. He also struggled a little bit man-to-man sometimes, so we'll see if he can improve on that. I think he's got a lot of talent. Would not shock me if I honestly think they could put him out wide and try him out wide at either field or boundary corner as well. I think that'd be interesting because I think he's built for that more than the nickelback position, but who knows? We'll see what they decide there. I trust PK completely. So whatever he wants to do with Jalen Gilbo, I'm completely fine with.
Yep.
And then Trey Moore, it's just the versatility thing. Like he showed how versatile he was this year. If he can continue showing that on tape, and then Texas, I'd be like, hey, listen, you're gonna have a top 5 pass rusher in the country on one side. You can go on the other side and eat off of that because you can get more sacks that way. Because guess what? They can't double team both of you.
Yeah, they're gonna slide coverage to Colin Simmons. They're gonna put the running back on Colin Simmons' side. You're gonna have one-on-ones. Can you beat a guy one-on-one? And we've seen him do that, right? I think you're absolutely right. And then you'll have Leifau and Anthony Hill behind you. So like there are opportunities for you to feast. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and the thing is, he was catching on at the end of the year. I think he ended up with like 4 or 5 sacks in the latter half of the year. So once he figured out what he was supposed to do in the scheme and he got used to the competition, you saw him turn it on, and he was a good football player. And I expect, like, if he comes back, would not shock me to see him have 7 to 9 sacks, like something like that. And if Colin Simmons does exactly what he does this year, 9 sacks on each side, Anthony Hill gives you another 7, 8. I mean, this could be a really dynamic pass rush. We even talked about, like, it's crazy. The guy that fell off, if you look at mock drafts at the beginning of the season, Ethan Burke was getting mocked in the first round, and he got passed up on the depth chart. Let's just be honest here. He did. He didn't really play, and he didn't play bad. I was kind of baffled by that, honestly.
I don't know if it was. There are 2 different types of like getting passed on the depth chart. It's like there's one where you suck and there's one where everybody else is just really good. And I feel like Ethan Burke is the latter. I feel like he's a guy who that defense, that edge room is just so stinking good. Because you have Baron Sorrell, who's a guy who was getting some NFL talk preseason, and we saw he was still a starter at the end, but we saw less of him as the season progressed. And I think it's just Colin Simmons figured it out and came on. Trey Moore started to figure it out and come on. There's only unless you're playing Arizona State, there's only like 60 or 70 defensive snaps in a game. So there's only so many plays, which honestly, as a guy who played in the trenches, I wouldn't mind having somebody to rotate, right? If I'm fresher in the 4th quarter going against an offensive lineman that's played every snap, advantage me.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, just thinking about that edge room, you're going to have Colin Simmons, Trey Moore comes back, those 2, Colton Vosick, Ethan Burke. I mean, that's a really good foursome to have off the edges. And I didn't even mention some of the other guys like Lance Jackson. I think we'll get a lot of playing time coming in. Smith the Rogue. I mean, this is going to be the best edge group Texas has had in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So very, very exciting. And I hope, like I said, Trey Moore come back, Michael Taft come back, Cam Williams come back. I think if those 3 come back, honestly, Texas will be the overwhelming favorite for the 2025 season. Like if you look around the country, look at what Ohio State's losing, look what Oregon's going to lose. We have a lot of guys coming back. Are they young? Yeah, but they're still really talented.
Yeah, if depending on who comes back of that group, I think Texas probably already a lock for a preseason top 10. And I think they're probably, if those guys come back, that number shrinks to single digits real quick.
Yeah, I think at worst, honestly, if all 3 leave, they're probably like the 4th or 5th team in the country because of the quarterback. Honestly, like it's going to be his first year starting, but it's going to be his 3rd year in the program. And no one else can say that really at the quarterback position.
I think the offensive line is going to be the big determiner. Replacing 80% of your offensive line in any year, yikes.
Yeah, that's why it's Cam Williams so big, because if you have him stay, then you have DJ Campbell, Cam Williams, and then fill out the other 3. And honestly, I think Gooseby, pass protection-wise, can be as good as Banks was this year. The run game, I don't know. That's going to be the issue with him and getting out in screens. You saw him struggle with that, like getting out and blocking people in the screen game. Left guard, center, we'll have to see there. Cole Hudson will probably be our left guard, and he was pretty good this year. So it's really only the center and left tackle if Cam Williams stays that's like question marks.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm a guy who watches the trenches, so I'm excited. Brandon Baker's another guy. I want to see what he looks like in the spring. Like, did he come on? Let's see it.
Well, and another guy, Neto, like he's
Yeah.
in that 2022 class. He was super talented. Are you going to live up to those expectations? You're like one of the last guys in that class left.
Yeah.
It's you, DJ Campbell, Cole Hudson fighting. It's funny. There are three guards fighting for two spots is basically. And guess what, guys? I have a feeling. I mean, this was going to happen. Whoever loses is going to transfer out in the spring because they really don't have that much eligibility left between the three. So we'll have to deal with that when that comes. But it's going to be interesting. Maybe one of them slides to center. I know Cole Hudson has been cross-trained. He could be the center.
I was gonna say you slide Hudson to center in that case. Like Hudson plays center. You've got Campbell. You've got Nato at on the other side. You know, like it's a really good group, untested but good.
Yeah, that's why I'm still most concerned about defensive tackle because we have literally nothing there that's proven at the University of Texas. There's nothing there that I know about.
Yeah, I need somebody from one of these two national championship teams to hit the portal and come to Texas in the fall.
Hey, Bears, hire Ryan Day and then call up Texas, call Ohio State, get some guys from there. that will work.
Some of those dudes from Michigan, some of those dudes from Ohio State, like give me some of those dudes. I need them.
I will say, too, it kind of surprised me because Alex January played in this game a decent amount, and he didn't play like at all the whole year, basically. And I was like, what the hell is this guy doing out here in the most important game of the season?
I mean, hopefully that's a good sign for next year, right?
I mean, he was getting talked about a lot in spring camp, so I wouldn't be surprised. I think he's going to be a really good player. I was just shocked at that, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, the transfer portal does weird things to people.
Yeah. Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Also, check out the Amazon link in the description. Does not change the buying process or experience. Just puts a little bit of change into Mark's pocket. Check out Mark's call-in show every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday post-game plus Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. He'll be doing some of those in the off-season as well. We'll be here every off-season every day. So please check us out. And let's jump to this because this has been a big question for me and something I brought up along with the fan base. New offensive coordinator. Gerald, what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I'm of like two minds. I don't want to see them bring in an offensive coordinator wholesale. You hire Steve Sarkisian for Steve Sarkisian, right? Steve Sarkisian, regardless of my frustrations with him in the red zone and in some weird play calling situations where he gets too smart for himself, Steve Sarkisian is one of the best offensive minds in the country. The guy can script a drive like nobody's business. The guy knows offense and creates looks and eye candy and all of that remains true. I don't know if it's somebody if it's a senior guy who you can get on a headset that can help him in red zone. To me, it's the red zone specifically. Like I need somebody to come in that can help get whatever is ailing Texas in the red zone. And I don't know if I think a full offensive coordinator change is not the answer. It just seems to me like, and I made a joke about it in post game because I need something to change in the red zone, but changing an offensive coordinator wholesale, especially the year when Arch Manning is taking over the offense, they came to Texas to play for Sark and in Sark's offense, right? Like you do not want to change that. That to me causes more problems than it solves in a lot of ways because again, a lot of these guys signed up to play for Sark and play in that offense and play in this system. So bringing in a new OC, I don't think fixes that. I think it may change some things in the red zone, but I think ultimately it creates more frustration and headache than it's worth. But whether it's getting a coach, I think of like Chip Kelly at Ohio State, right? Didn't want a head coach anymore. You don't need to bring him in as an OC. But can you bring him in to just help with some of these red zone issues, to help with what's going on, whatever is in Sark's head that gets in his way in the red zone? To me, that is the solution. I think that to me is what needs to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I agree because think about it. If you bring in an offensive coordinator, is that offensive coordinator just going to want to run the Sark offense or is he going to want to run his offense? And I don't think the issue is Sark's offense, but I do think the issue is play sequencing. And I've had issues with that certain times. I thought there were certain points in this game, things didn't make sense because what was working to me in this game was the screen game, short passing. And you saw that for a bunch at one time and then go away. You saw that at a bunch at one time, and then it'd go away. And you saw that with Steve Sarkisian. He would go to things that work consistently, and then for some reason stop it for a certain portion of the game, and then go back to it. And I never understood that. To me, again, I'm the school of Bill Belichick. Until you show me you can stop it, I'm running that play over and over and over again. And Sark would do that at certain times, and then he wouldn't do that. So that's my biggest issue with him. I think he's a great play designer. I think he's a great play caller when he just concentrate on it. And I think it was interesting when they asked both coaches at the Cotton Bowl, someone asked Steve Sarkisian, would you give up your play calling duty? He's like, I love it too much. And then they talked about Ryan Day, and Ryan Day basically said, I'd be sitting there on a Thursday thinking about how I'm going to run this play from the 7-yard line on this hash. And I'm like, I'm the head coach. I just can't be thinking about this on a random Thursday. I have to be thinking about the whole picture. So I don't know. I'm kind of caught in between. I would probably give it another year or two. If you keep seeing this stuff in the red zone, keep seeing odd play calling sequences, then I think it would be time for them to hire an offensive coordinator and make sure they are fine with just running the Steve Sarkisian offense. That's going to be hard to find because, again, Chip Kelly's only doing this because he really doesn't want a head coach anymore. He's getting paid a crap ton of money, and he's friends with Ryan Day.
I wonder if it's like an elevate AJ Milwee kind of situation. Milwee has been kind of Sark's understudy. I don't mean that as an insult, but he's been Sark's right hand for a very long time. He's Sark's quarterback coach. They are good friends. They have kind of almost a mentor-mentee relationship in a lot of ways. So I wonder if it comes to pass where you have somebody who knows Sark really, really well, knows Sark intimately, knows how he thinks, knows how he processes. Sark can still be involved in the scripting and in the scheming, but when it comes to being in the booth and calling plays, then it's Milwee, who, again, he's been with Sark for years, for a long, long, long time. So that to me would make sense if and when Texas does need to make the move. And again, I don't know if AJ Milwee wants to do that, but I think it creates a level of continuity. I think it creates a level of sameness that is needed and required because I think, again, and I don't want to say too many good things about Tom Herman, but one of the best things Tom Herman ever said was like, I have to be flipping between channels and talking to the defense and talking to the offense, and I can't do that if I'm also calling plays, right? Like he has to be the one that's in communication and running the whole game. And so like Ryan Day said at postgame, Tom Herman said it once, one of the only good things he's ever said, in my opinion. But like that to me, it's something to monitor. Again, if we don't see an improvement, if this continues to be the Achilles heel for Texas, then I think we need to have the conversation.
You don't think winning is hard is something that he said that's important?
I mean, it is hard, but like, come on.
No, it's just funny every post game.
Winning is hard.
It's like, winning, it's hard. God, that's gonna be stuck with me for a long time because he would say it every damn press conference. But
okay, I got one more. The only other, I loved this quote. Football is a game about moving another human being a place where he doesn't want to go. That is a good quote. That is bars right there.
Let's get away from the Tom Herman era. But yeah, I agree. It's going to be interesting how this goes because the last play caller, I know this is stat floating out, to win a national championship as a head coach and calling his own plays was Jimbo Fisher in 2013. That's it. I don't know when the last one before that was. I'd have to look at it, but that was 12 years ago now. So that's going to be interesting. I don't know.
And it took an all-time quarterback. Like Jameis was one of those dudes in college.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe he'll take an all-time quarterback, but I want something that will work consistently. So that's what I'm hoping. Obviously, we can find, and that's the thing too about the red zone thing. I don't want an arch band-aid if we're running him every time, and people are like, the red zone offense is fixed. No, Arch Manning fixed the red zone offense. When he's gone, it'll probably be the same. So you got to actually find a real fix. So we'll see what happens.
Texas was great at third and short with Sam Ehlinger because the guy just threw himself at the line of scrimmage, right? Like. It's not a fix. It's a Band-Aid. It's not a solution.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I agree with the AJ Milwee thing. I've been thinking that as well. If you're going to do it, I think that's the only option that I see right now. I don't know anyone else that's been on Sark's staff that's like he's boys with over the years that he's like, yeah, you know what? Can you come and call plays for me? Maybe Lane Kiffin can completely fall off the boat, go on a bender, and then we can hire him to do that because that'd be awesome. But I really don't know anyone else that would do it. I think AJ Milwee's like the only choice at this point.
Yeah, I don't think Kyle Flood wants to call plays. That's not his jam. It just that's the only one that makes sense to me.
Yeah, that would be awkward too because I don't really know how you could be up in the booth calling plays most likely, and then how are you going to communicate with your offensive linemen? I don't think that would work. So I think AJ Milwee's the only one. I don't know, but maybe Norm Chow. Let's bring him back out from the USC days. I don't know how old he is. He's got to be like 80 years old at this point.
That guy is pushing. So he's pushing up there for sure.
Pete Carroll, hey, maybe we can get him. I know he's interviewing for NFL jobs. Call him up and see what happens. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I don't think we're gonna get. I mean, Sark said it himself. He loves calling plays, so I just don't see it at this point. But could we see it in the future? Yeah.
He loves winning more. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Joey, Sark couldn't fix the red zone scoring issues in year 4. He needs to admit that it's not an execution problem. It is a situational play calling problem. I don't disagree with that.
Yep.
I mean, you can't really disagree with it to up until this point. That's what I'm saying. I think I'd give him one more year to solve it. I mean, if you can't solve it next year with Arch Manning, who's 6'4", 240 that you can run with, and you're going to have a really good running back room and wide receivers that can go up in the red zone and get the football like Ryan Winko, Khalil Glock, and those guys, it's probably not going to be solved by Sark then at that point. I think you're going to have to hire an offensive coordinator.
And I think the grain of salt that we have to have this whole conversation in, Texas sucks in the red zone and was still a play away from playing for playing for overtime to play in the national championship, right? Like that is the level that we're at. This is pimples on the prom queen. This is I think of when you're making improvements. I in my day job, I'm a consultant, right? You start with a machete where you're just cutting away vines and stuff, and that was the 5 and 7 year, and then you go to a knife, and then you go to a scalpel, and now we're doing laser surgery at this point. We're like, what are the things that are like small? And not, red zone scoring is not small, but like, how do we go from like holistic? We have more tight ends than offensive linemen. Then now we're like, okay, Sark needs to figure out the red zone, the 40 yards of the field that haunt him.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I've heard he wants to get better at in zone or inside zone running, which would help that as well. I think that is something I forgot to hit on too. I think we need to get away from just being an 80% outside zone running team. That does not work because we saw if you stopped outside zone, guess what you did? You won the game every time. But Georgia did it both games and Ohio State did it, and they won. Every other time where those teams didn't stop it, we won those games. That's not how this can be. That's not how this should work. It should be, oh, if this stopped this, then we can at least go to this. Like have like one or two more solutions. So I definitely think you got to get better at inside zone.
Need a third pitch.
Yeah, 100%. You just can't throw your fastball the whole game. And yeah, inside zone is going to help. I think you're going to see more read options. I know he doesn't like to run his quarterback, but I think you're going to see that with Arch Manning. I think overall that will help the run game and in the red zone as well. Because if you run the football in the red zone, that helps out a lot. We could not run the football versus good competition in the game period, and we definitely couldn't do it in the red zone.
I think C.J. Baxter will also help that problem.
Yes, he will definitely help that problem. Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. This is the 36th edition of Texas Longhorns Live. We really appreciate you guys being here. Follow myself on Twitter right there and X, whatever you want to call it, Twitter, X, whatever it is. Follow it right there. And then there's Gerald's Twitter or X right there as well, along with his Longhorn Pod, which check out that as well. And you can listen to us on any audio platform, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. You can listen to us, Texas channel, SEC channel, the main channel. You can listen to all the channels on Mark Rogers TV. So check that out and check out the Ole Miss Show every 2 p.m. Eastern time. Every 2 p.m. or every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Geez. So please check that out. And we really appreciate you guys being here. Joey, we'll hit with this before we leave. Barry Looney Jr. is someone I would consider as an OC. I'm going to be straight up honest. I do not know who that is.
I have to Google it. As soon as we get off here, I'm going to Google it. I'm going to do some research. Joey, you give me homework. I don't know if I like it, but I'm going to do it anyways.
No, I have not heard of Barry Looney Jr. Very interesting name. I'm going to be honest with you on that one. I feel like that would have come up. Yeah. Are you looking that up now? Because I'm actually interested.
I am. At Illinois. Okay. All right. Illinois.
Illinois was good this year, and they've had a good offense.
The first picture that comes up is him in an Arkansas hat. So I gotta say, I'm gonna have to pray through that one. I'm gonna have to do some woosah on that one. But they were a good team this year. I don't know the similarities to what Sark is currently running because again, I don't know how far off of the Sark reservation they want to go with whatever OC they bring in, which is why I kind of tend toward do they have somebody in house that would like to go with it.
Yeah, now that you brought that up, there are some other people out there. He's close with Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. Give them up a call and ask them if their quarterback coach or assistant quarterback coach is any interest in calling plays. I would trust those guys if they recommend someone to come to Texas and call plays for us. That would be a fix as well. I think that might work.
Yeah, could be. There are options if Texas goes that direction for sure.
100%. Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. We will be back here next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, breaking it down with you. We'll talk about, because at that point, we'll know who's in the NFL, who's coming back, maybe a little early 2025 forecast, maybe transfer portal stuff if any other stuff hits like that. So please, again, hit that like button, subscribe, guys, and hook them.
Hook them.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.